You run the comps, you estimate the repairs down to the last hinge, and you make your offer, only to lose the bid. You are doing the math exactly the way the textbooks describe, but every property goes to someone willing to pay significantly more. Most real estate investors start with the 70% rule. For decades, this formula has served as the bedrock for house flippers, acting as a mathematical safeguard intended to prevent a project from turning into a total financial loss. The formula relies on three variables. First is the ARV, the after-repair value, or the estimated worth of a property once all renovations are complete. You multiply that by 0.70 and subtract your estimated repair costs. The result is your MAO, the maximum allowable offer, the price ceiling an investor must not exceed to maintain profitability. In this scenario, your calculated ceiling is $165,000, but in a modern market, that offer is rejected. The winning bid comes in at $190,000, significantly higher than your safety net allowed. This creates a difficult choice. Abandoning the rule entirely invites financial ruin, but sticking to it rigidly often leads to a stagnant portfolio with zero active deals. Successful investors treat the 70% rule as a rigid baseline that requires scientific adjustment. To actually close deals, you must calibrate this percentage to fit your specific market conditions and individual capital structure. To adjust your offers safely, we have to look at the 30% equity buffer. This discount covers the risks and overhead inherent in a flip. Standard industry practice splits this 30% buffer into two equal 15% blocks. The first 15% covers fixed operational expenses. This includes the property taxes and utilities paid during the renovation, the closing fees for the title transfer, and the interest on hard money loans, short-term high-interest financing used by investors for fast turnaround projects. The final 15% represents your target profit for the time and risk invested. When a project faces permit delays or material cost increases, the added expenditure physically compresses this specific profit block. For a novice investor, this entire 30% buffer is a requirement. It provides the financial room to survive the inevitable mistakes that come with learning how to accurately estimate labor and materials. Winning competitive bids requires identifying exactly which of these internal cost blocks can be safely compressed without eliminating your profit entirely. Macroeconomic factors are the first variables that distort the math, specifically operating in highly competitive sellers markets or expensive coastal regions. This chart shows how market heat affects your strategy. In high-demand areas, intense competition forces investors to offer 75 or even 80% of the ARV just to participate in the deal. When the offer percentage rises, the profit block shrinks to 10% or less. This strategy leaves no room for error. Your renovation estimates must be accurate to the dollar to avoid a loss. A second distortion occurs when purchasing higher-priced premium real estate, such as properties with an ARV exceeding $600,000. The math of luxury flips can be deceptive. A tight 20% margin on a $600,000 home still provides a $120,000 absolute buffer, twice as much cash as a standard 30% margin on a cheaper starter home. However, the larger dollar buffer hides a higher risk. You are taking on significantly more debt and increasing your exposure if the local market value fluctuates while you are under construction. In extensive or fast-moving markets, investors often choose to trade the size of their percentage margin for increased deal velocity. Beyond market forces, your own internal investor advantages can change your offer ceiling. Purchasing a property with 100% liquid cash eliminates the 10 to 12% interest rates typical of hard money lenders, significantly reducing your fixed overhead. Holding a real estate license further lowers costs by removing the standard 3% agent commission on the eventual sale. While these advantages allow for more aggressive bids, they also tie up your personal capital in a single illiquid asset for the duration of the project. Finally, there is one scenario where the 70% rule should be ignored entirely: long-term buy-and-hold rentals. Applying a flipping formula to a rental ignores cash flow and the DSCR, the debt service coverage ratio, which measures a property's ability to cover its own monthly mortgage payments through rental income. Your structural advantages define your risk. If your operational costs are low because of cash or licensing, you can safely raise your maximum allowable offer. This framework synthesizes these variables into a specific target percentage for your next offer. Novice investors using hard money in low-cost standard markets should stick to the 70% target. For this group, the full 30% buffer is non-negotiable to protect against the learning curve mistakes common in early projects. Experienced investors, or those with cash and licensing advantages operating in hot markets, move into the 75 to 80% range. These structural advantages lower the actual cost of doing business, providing the mathematical room to elevate the offer price. Investors focused on rental income should bypass this formula entirely. Rental management requires evaluating monthly yields and capitalization rates, rather than transactional margins. The 70% rule functions as a customizable stress test for your investment margins. Survival in a high-heat market depends on calibrating this formula to your specific capital structure and local reality.